You're welcome along to Golf Weekly. My guest this week is a winner on the PGA Tour and a four-time winner on the European Tour. Matt Wallace, nice to talk to you.
Hey, how are you?
How you keeping?
I'm very good, thank you. Yeah, very good. Happy to be here back in England playing this week at the Belfry. So good to be back on home soil and playing a nice event like the British Masters.
You've had a couple of weeks off, probably unwanted weeks off, but a couple of weeks off
Yeah, yeah.
nonetheless. What's downtime look like these days?
Well, I went to Portugal. I had a nice week in Portugal with a few friends, playing a lot of golf actually, unexpected, but nice, like friendly golf, early mornings, flying around in a buggy and chilling in the afternoon and having some nice meals. So that was really nice. And then last week has been a bit of prep for this week. So I haven't had much this year where I've been able to prep for tournaments. So it's been good. I'm coming into this week, looking forward to it. And sometimes you get caught off guard, with so much golf nowadays where you have 1 week off, but that week off you want to relax, but you also need to prepare. So having 2 weeks off is has been a blessing, even though I wouldn't like 2 weeks off. I'd like to be playing over there in America in those last few tournaments, but it's not the way it's gone for me this year, and we look forward to the future and what's to come. So.
Reflect on the year so far and the PGA Tour season. You finished in the top 125, but you didn't make the playoffs ultimately in the end.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's been good signs, but I know I've probably brought my C game to the PGA Tour this year, and a little bit of not necessarily scheduling wise, but it's been difficult for me going back and forth from America. I didn't base myself in America again this year, so deciding to come home during my weeks off has, I'd say, been beneficial for my mind. So I get to see my family, friends. But physically, maybe not the best way to do it. And practice wise, hasn't been as good as I'd wanted. So going to tournaments, having to do a bit more work in the build up to the events, it takes it out of you a little bit. So I've probably seen that correlation into this year where I haven't finished the tournament as well as I'd wanted, or backdoor top tens or any of those that can really bump you up in the FedEx. But again, my not so good golf is able to get me in around keeping my card sort of thing. So I know I'm better than that, and I've shown signs of that, and I just need to keep going.
Is tough for the European golfers now with the way the calendar has gone and just so much golf in America. And a lot
Yeah,
of the guys your age have gone through well, I try a little bit of both, maybe try to move to Florida. You're a
yeah,
long way from home, you're a long way from family, and trying
yeah.
to get that balance that you're talking about of like your mental health if you're away from home for 3 4 month stretches,
Yeah.
it can be a massive strain. But professionally, you need to take the hit if you're not, and as
100%.
you say, you're when you could be practicing, you're on an airplane.
Well, it depends what your philosophy is and what your mindset is. If you're one to take a bit, you can relax and take time off and not need to grind as much, and you play. Let's say you're a player, you play on the golf course more than you practice. I think you can do that. But I have lived in Florida. I've done it for 4 years, and this year I didn't. And I wanted to go back and forth and do some practice when I'm say at Wentworth, when I'm back home. But I wouldn't say that's been beneficial to me as much. The quality of practice hasn't quite been there of how I've wanted. The amount of practice, like you say, spending 15, 16 hours on a plane there and back, that's not beneficial for myself and my body. So it's a decision I made. I'm comfortable with the decision. It just
Yeah, you
shows.
are comfortable with that because I'm wondering, in like for professional golfers, you're so selfish for so long, and everything's
Yeah,
about
yeah.
you, that this
No,
can be a better life decision.
I've been comfortable with that decision. It was a decision that I wanted to make. It wasn't something that I wanted my manager Graham to be involved in, or anyone else really. But what I've realised is that I need that practice, and I need to figure out a way of how, when I am in America or in Florida, how I do get that downtime. Because if it is practice all the time, I'm that type of person that struggles to take time off. Um, so yeah, the dynamics have changed this year. and I want to just be better at golf. So I think the way that I want to, or I'm going to do that is by moving myself back out there again.
So you're going to go back next year and live permanently in Florida?
Yeah, I'll be out there for that period of time. I can come back and forth whenever I want, obviously, but to base myself over there and get the practice in when I need to, and then plan, my weeks off a bit better. Do you know what it is? It's been like my weekends where I've been either having to cram in some work before a tournament, and then I get on a flight and do the 8-hour flight, or I do my practice during the week when I feel like I want to get that done, and then have some time off at the weekend, and then I get on the flight. I haven't felt prepared well enough. Whereas when I was in Florida, I could sporadically play one day on, one day off, one day on, or whatever, and I'd keep the momentum going, and I'd just be better prepared come a Monday, Tuesday, and then especially a Thursday. So mentally, it's just been a little bit more challenging this year, knowing I'm going to some tournaments where I'm a little bit undercooked.
The American lifestyle and setting into that way, were you comfortable with it when you were there? I know look, there's a bigger European contingent now, but it's a big old country and people are based in different places. I know a lot of them speak of, the American, they come through the college golf system. They know their college sports. It's all they talk about in the locker room. And when you're an outsider to that, it can be hard to make friends.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I went to college for a year over there in Jacksonville State in Alabama. So I understand the whole college thing. The thing for me, being a city boy from London, is I love being in the big cities. So I love playing in like Detroit. I love playing New Orleans when we play the Zurich. And I stay downtown and I'm in amongst it. And you walk outside and you're seeing people. There's constantly things happening. It's the places that it's like Deadsville, and there's nothing going on. That's the difficulty, I think, for a lot of Europeans who, we could get on a plane for an hour and we could be in Paris, and it's a completely different culture, completely different place to be, and you're just improving your knowledge of places around the world. Whereas in America, you'd be on a plane and you're in the same place, and it's a Chipotle at night for dinner. So it's getting that engagement for me, I think, of switching off and being in places that make my mind, not think about golf so much. And it's difficult sometimes when all you can think of is golf because you're in golf in heaven. I always say it to people, inside the ropes in America, I think, is the best place in the world. Outside of it is really difficult if you come from the likes of where I come from in London and stuff like that.
It's interesting looking at your season results-wise, but also stats-wise, and I suspect you've looked at them in far greater detail than I have, but I think you're about 54th in terms of overall strokes gained, but obviously finish outside the top 100 in terms of the points. Where does the correlation get a little bit crazy?
I think putting. Well, there's two things I'd probably put it down to. My iron play's been stellar for a long time. So I've been able to strike the ball well off the tee sometimes. And when I do strike the ball well off the tee, my iron play's there and I can get going, I feel like my driving has been too inconsistent to then back up my approach play. And then my putting this year wasn't at a point where I was able to when I was playing decent, I was able to make scores. But that's why the change of grip, I've gone to the claw grip, and I feel like that's really helped me out. And we're seeing good trends at the moment. We're seeing, like, I played last tournament 2 weeks ago in Wyndham, and my iron play was down, which was the first of a long time this year. It's the first time, I think, in a long while where I've lost strokes gained in approach play, but my driving was really, really good and my putting was decent. So, I need to just blend them all together, figure that out, and when I do bring it together, it's really good golf, like we saw at the end of last year, making loads of birdies. And I just need to be a little bit more consistent with it, and then I can put some results together.
Changing grip, are you a meddler? Are you somebody who's always messing about with things to see what feels nicer? Is it
I used to be, but I don't think I am now. I'm always trying to find the edge. I'm always trying to be on top of it, whether that be the distance or the spin, the control. I'm not a meddler, but I definitely look at my trends, and I look at, like, if I go with a feel, and I said to my putting coach Mike Kansky, my right hand's getting involved here big time, and I can't figure out why that is, because in practice, and I can put myself under as much pressure as I want on the putting green, it will still come in under the gun. And that was like in Canada. I hit the ball unbelievably well, but I just couldn't get the ball in the hole, and it was coming from not a nervous, but an unwavering side to my right hand. So we've taken the right hand out of it, and it was a big jump to do that. But we've done that, and I feel really comfortable with it.
Over the last couple of years, you talk about going to some of the bigger cities and enjoying it. What's your favorite stop on tour?
Oh, favorite stop on tour. Let me think about it. Unfortunately, I wasn't at the Masters this year, so that's normally a nice one because you're playing well or something's going right. Not outside of Augusta is not great, but there are some nice places to stay around there. Do you know what? As crazy as it sounds, I really enjoyed Detroit. I really enjoy the hustle and bustle of it, and it's quite a dangerous city. But there's something nice about that. There is good culture to it. We stay
a bit more real.
Yeah, 15 minutes down the road from the course, which is a brilliant golf course. Donald Ross design, very flat, lots of birdies. But staying downtown, I mean, staying in a great hotel down there. I've stayed in a house down there as well, but staying in the hotel, and you can go outside your hotel and walk to the coffee shop. You don't know if you're going to come back alive or not, but it's great. Like, I love it. I think it's a great city. There's a good vibe to it, and the baseball stadium's right there. Good pizza. It's great. It's really nice.
I think when people think of you this year, the standout moment is the 90 seconds or so you spent in that European Tour booth at the Scottish Open, where I don't know if they got you at the right time or the wrong time. They're brilliant at their social media at the European Tour, but you were obviously incredibly disappointed at the time at missing the cut. And people don't remember, some of the quotes you spoke about, lacking a load of self-confidence at the moment. You had to roll with the punches. That's what you're doing. And just, you were trying to calm yourself down in the booth. Can I ask you what happens when you walk out of the booth? What happens next?
Well, I felt a big relief off of my shoulders, really, because I was able to talk about it and be real. And then I knew it was being sent out to the whole population, and just kind of like reliving that moment of, like, there was a lot of, not pressure on me, but I put pressure on myself, and I felt like it was all lifted off me a little bit. And yeah, I was quite emotional in there. And then when I came out, I was saying to Graham, my manager, I was like, feels good. Like, that felt quite good and quite cathartic, is it? Cathartic. I felt it was nice, it was nice to do that. And yeah, they got me at a time where I was very emotional, very kind of like, I guess, in a place where I didn't want to be. I want to be competing more. I want to be playing the golf I know I can, and I've been showing signs of it, but I just haven't been able to put them together. And so I guess it's like everyone's working really hard out here on tour. I know the levels that I go to put effort into this game, and I just don't feel like I was getting things out of it that I felt like I was putting in. But you just have to keep going, and the position that I'm talking to you now is very optimistic, and I guess I just didn't feel that right at that moment. And right now I feel very optimistic about my game. Just played 9 holes here at the Belfry and flushed it around. I felt really comfortable. I've been playing nice in my down in Portugal when I was down there, and good practice this last week. So yeah, very optimistic about this week.
That day and missing the cut at the Scottish Open and that emotion and disappointment that we saw, was that just a normal thing for you on missing the cut at a big event, you know, where there was probably some family and friends around who made the trip up and things like that, and the disappointment? Or was there something about that moment that it was greater than your normal level of disappointment and emotion?
Good question. I think with it being the week before the Open, and also I didn't have family and friends there. I had obviously a few friends that come up from Scotland and come and watch me play, but them being there doesn't really affect how much I want it, you know, and I want it for myself necessarily more than them being there. But it was more of how I played. I played decent for what I thought, and I found myself on the cut line and kind of let it go, and then a miscut happens, and it's never nice when you feel like you've played okay and you miss a cut because you feel like your level's not good enough. But I think there was a little bit more to that interview, and from an emotional side of just wanting a little bit more in the game from where I'm at, and being in, you know, from the last year, at the end of last year, making the DP World Tour finals from nowhere, having 9 birdies in a row, being in contention, coming second. It's not nice to finish second when you got the lead overnight, but played decent that last day considering, and just felt like that could have been the boost that I needed going into this year. And it just hasn't happened. But I've learned more this year than I think I've ever done. That was an emotional release that I really felt was needed at that time. Not many people know what's been going on with my game. They obviously think I'm a decent player and everyone knows that. And I just haven't shown that for a long period of time, really. But I put a stop to that, and I played well at the Open. Didn't finish off a week that I'd wanted to, but I'm on a decent trend. I'm playing decent golf, and we've got the start of a Ryder Cup campaign this week. So whenever I've been planning for this basically for the last 6 months for this moment now of getting the team involved, getting everyone in place, everyone understanding that the Ryder Cup is our forefront. And whenever I'm in the gym with my trainer Rob, if he says Ryder Cup to me, there's like, I am so focused, and it's an amazing energy that I gain from it. So Luke coming up with this new point system over here in Europe. I'll be playing a lot more in Europe for the rest of the year, and it's just giving me that new energy, that new lease of life that I've needed in this year. And 2024, even though I finished 112 or 110 on the FedEx, who knows? If I knock off a couple wins, it could be a stellar year for me. And it's literally that change that I would like, and what I'd want for me to go, you know, 2024 is a great year, you know.
I think what connected with people was that we just don't see that moment very often. It's rare that you get the beaten golfer being interviewed. In fact, there's almost a level of respect, even I think with journalists and golfers, that if you miss the cut, you leave them alone. Maybe the top 2 or 3 players in the world are an exception, and they want a little bit of something out them. And it reminded me of Shane Lowry, I think, was posting after Rory McIlroy at the US Open, saying this is just the most horrible game, as to when it gets down on you, it really gets down on you. And
that's a guy who is going for the win, not necessarily a miscut. Probably a miscut in that moment for Rory would be a lot easier than you know, missing a couple putts. But the guy's unbelievable. The guy probably sometimes plays his B game and is in contention to win majors. So Shane having Rory's back is very much like how I would see it. I would have Rory's back there and be like, this game is too difficult to even comment, especially if you're not as good as Rory McIlroy. So everyone can have their thoughts on what he should do. Or, I mean, I'm talking with your punter golfer saying how he pushes his putts and he's not a good putter, and I'm like, give over. He can't even lace his boots, you know. So the guy's awesome. This game is too difficult. You know, what I showed there was just that raw emotion and raw passion I've got for the game and how I feel like I work and what I want. And I just need to have that spark and that moment, you know, to really say to the world, I feel like I'm here, and that I would like to announce that at some point during my career where I've played decent enough and got the most out of my game and won a tournament and said, yeah, that's me as a golfer.
Golf, I think, still struggles with how to deal with players with passion.
Yeah,
I'm reading some quotes from you a couple of years ago talking about wanting to get back how you felt when you were winning tournaments, the intensity, pretty much over the top with the intensity. And again, it reminds me a lot of conversations we'd have with Shane Lowry of people will be critical at times of his behavior on the course. He said, I need that fire in the belly. Like
yeah.
people look at him and say, like John Ram, well, actually, he's blowing hot. That's a negative. Whereas actually, people forget you're competitive beasts, and for a lot
Yeah.
of guys, you need that spark.
I mean, it's so difficult to say. You can't say someone who needs to be more chill or needs to be more amped up. Or, I mean, I played with Tiger a few times, and he proper goes at himself. He proper gives it to himself. But it's the way he controls it, and I think that's the thing that golfers probably need to do a little more of or be better at, especially for myself. Is I need that fire, I need that determination. I've just done a spotlight test with my psychologist and talking about my drive in the game, as I need that there because sometimes the easier the task, the less engaged I am. So it's like I need that intensity, I need that drive for success to be high for me to get the highest of performance out of me. Um, so there's a balance, isn't there? And also listening to critics or listening to people that aren't in your team is probably negative. My team know exactly what we need to do to be the best I can be. I've just got to have blinkers on and trust that their professional opinion is going to help me get the best out of myself. And I feel like I've got the best people in place for that. So Joe from down the road who plays pickleball on a weekend once and comments on me as a golfer out in the fire and in the cauldron of it all, I'm not really going to listen to them a lot of the time.
That's not a motivation to shut them up, to prove them wrong.
Yeah, I want to prove them wrong. I want to prove them wrong, but I want to prove them wrong in the Matt Wallace way. And also, I always liken it to, uh, well, maybe shouldn't say this, but I liken it to how Ben Stokes was, when he was kind of like in prison and then he goes and scores a century against Australia and wins the Ashes and is then knighted. Like it's like that balance of trying to perform well, but also shut people up by performance.
Because I'm thinking back to your best golf
Yeah.
when you were winning tournaments, which am I right in saying it was around the time where you were getting criticism, probably the most criticism for your behavior on the course,
Yeah.
and like with Dave McNeely, who's obviously somebody very well known in Irish golfing circles, and there was a real focus on, and I think a conversation as to how players interact with caddies and what's acceptable and what's not. Was that part of what was going on in your head of, well, firstly, maybe I'm not that guy that people are saying I am, but
Absolutely.
I'm
I mean,
that.
not many people know what actually went on. They're just having their opinion from I guess a TV shot. And I mean, Dave literally just walked past there as we were talking before, and the amount of respect and the amount of time we spent together, and for that person to help me out in the start of my career, I couldn't have thought of anyone better to caddy for me. He's been amazing. He's helping Tom McKibben out, or was helping Tom McKibben out, wasn't he? Another young, great golfer. And during that time, I was like, yeah, I was this guy coming out from the Alps tour, winning quite a bit, getting onto European tour, having great results, but also not understanding the lows in the game. I was just going like this, so I couldn't understand why I'd miscut and why I'd get backlash for some things. But now that's 5, 6 years ago. I'm a completely different person. I understand what I was doing back then as a petulant, I guess, 27-year-old. That I've learned from that and I've changed completely, really, in the sense of how I deal with those situations, how I interact with the person that's really trying to help me. So Dave and I are great. Dave and I have been great since then. And during that time, I don't think people really understood what went on. But that's okay, because hopefully I can put that right. And I don't think many people talk about the way I am now, really, anyway.
Keeping that fire, and when you're talking to your team and your psychologist, and maintaining the good parts of the passion. When you're on the course, are you good at forgetting what happened 30 seconds earlier, whether it's a bad shot or a moment of frustration? Are you ice cold in those moments now?
It's a good question, because it's something that has had to be implemented in my game, and we've had to test a few things as to how we're going to do it. But I'll let you into what we do now, and that's something that I believe, from what I've heard, Tiger used to do. So not a bad person to try and emulate, but using like the 10-yard line. And a lot of things that I tend to do poorly is when I'm overthinking the past or the future, not staying very present. So I can overthink the negative side of the past, and I can think of the negative of what the future might look like, of, oh man, I'm in the trees, I'm going to make bogey, I'm going to do this or that. But using that 10-yard line, get very internal, get into my breathing techniques that I've got, which help me just not really think about much and be very present. So I've got basically this game with my caddy, Jamie, that I can, that first hit, the adrenaline hit of that everyone gets as a golfer of, excuse my language, fuck, like I've hit a shit shot. What am I doing? Blah, blah, blah. And then after that 10 yards, or after that, leaving that tee box, the line on the tee box, boom, it's gone. You're getting into your breathing. You're not thinking about the next shot either. You're not thinking about what you've got coming up. You're literally being very present. And then you get to that next shot and you're like, this is a new challenge. What do I need to do? So I've learned all these sort of things, and being able to talk to you about, I just never had. I never had these sort of things. So I never had the understanding and the real intellect as to how to deal with them. I was just a golfer that would get pissed off, carry that on, get pissed off at the next shot, and try and play a golf shot. I was decent enough to be able to get my way around a golf course, but I was never able to really understand how to control it.
Well, you're lucky to get it now at 34, where you should still have a huge amount of really good golf ahead of you. It probably makes you look at the likes of a Ludwig Gobert and these guys who are coming through in their early 20s, who seem to have it all worked out, and say, how the hell did they do it?
I know, but that's like their personality, isn't it? And it's amazing. I look at Ludwig and I'm like, man, laughing after making a double bogey on the 11th hole on the last day of the Masters. Like, fair play. Like, that's unbelievable. And I love the way he plays. I love the way that he's just in his own shot, and he just commits to that, and he swings it. Like, the amount of work I think he must have done in college, and the amount of shots where he's not really caring about the outcome as much, and he's just putting the best swing on it possible, has made him this ultimate ball striker, which Luke obviously saw to get into the Ryder Cup. Funny, I played with Luke today, and just playing with him and Eduardo on the back nine at the Belfry here today just gave me so much focus, and I hit the ball so good. So
Great.
I'm hoping he saw that, and I know it starts this week, but hopefully that'll stay in his brain, because I remember he played with Ludwig at Rocket Mortgage, actually, at Detroit, and he was like, this guy has to be in. So yeah, I mean, Ludwig is a stellar candidate for the mental side, and he's going to be in the game for a long, long time.
Did you seek out Luke and Eduardo, or did they seek you out?
No, well, I was on the tee on the 10th, and I think they were just walking past, and we said hello, and they were walking to the putting green, and then Luke shouted to Eddie and said, "Come on, let's join Wally." So yeah, a little bit of pressure there on the 10th, when I'm hitting driver to the smallest green out there. But I hit it just right, and then we were away, and I hit the ball really nice. So yeah, but who really cares? It's a Monday of a tournament.
a year away from a Ryder Cup. I mean, I'm interested, and I love the way you're talking about the Ryder Cup. And we were talking to Billy Horschel earlier, who was talking about the President's Cup and the Ryder Cup, and just how it's anti everything that we're talking about all the time in golf right now, and the obsession with money and the prize funds and all of that. And it feels to me, even watching you, that you're a player who's been thereabouts when it comes to Ryder Cup teams, and probably just missed that last bit. And maybe Ludwig Aubert is a good example. There's lots of different ways to qualify. He hadn't even played a major before he went. When you're talking about all that mental work that you're doing, like, we are a year away from the Ryder Cup, and if that's the ultimate goal, how do you make sure you don't get too far ahead of yourself or too disappointed too soon, when you've got a big
Oh,
3-4 weeks now where you can make an impression?
Yeah, exactly. This is my fourth campaign. Is that about right? Yeah, my fourth one. Very close in 18, but was kind of, well, I won 2 times before the final event in Denmark, and then I made it very clear to people when I had a chance on the Saturday that if I win, I think I might get in, or and when we won, and Dave McNeely was coming up to me and being like, "Let's get ready for Paris," and I was absolutely buzzing. And then we didn't ultimately make it, which, right or wrongly, they went on to win the Ryder Cup, and it was great, and I supported them, and then I took a lot of confidence from being, potentially the next guy in. But then the last couple campaigns, I haven't been there or thereabouts, and I've tried to squash the whole storyline behind Ryder Cup and take care of my business and all of that. And this time it feels different. This time it feels like I'm prepared to sacrifice, I guess, myself a little bit to make the Ryder Cup. And it's like, I'm going to play the rest of the year on the European tour here because I can only earn points for the Ryder Cup in Europe. There's no points in America that you can gain in the full series. So yeah, I'm going to drop outside the top 125, but I've got my next year. But this is the best way for me to make the Ryder Cup. And I'm doing that. I'm doing everything I possibly can to make this one. I played great in Bethpage when it was held, the PGA there. Is it the PGA? Yeah, the PGA. And I know I'm prepped, and I know I'm ready to play in a Ryder Cup. I know I've got that team nature about me, and I know I can play well in that, especially that cauldron that we're going to be in. And I just want to be there. I've got a lot of passion for it. So
you're going to be playing a lot of golf then in this part of the world, particularly over the next few weeks. You mentioned this week at the Belfry, and obviously all this starting to build up towards Wentworth. I see Tyrrell Hatton is down to play this week, and obviously that's going to become a story over the winter as well. A lot of the live players returning. Where were you on live? Was it ever an option?
I think early doors, yeah, it was an option. I was definitely involved in the talks of the first inclusion of it all because I was top 50 player in the world. So there were talks about it, but it definitely wasn't what it was now then. And they've needed time to get to where they are now. And they're doing somewhat of a decent job, you'd say. They've got some great players there, and I haven't watched much of it, but there's obviously some great golfers that people will want to watch and go to watch live. I like the fact that they travel worldwide. I think that's really good for golf. But it's not the thing that would wake me up in the morning. Being able to get paid guaranteed money wouldn't wake me up in the morning. Having that emotional roller coaster is the thing that makes me get up and want to be better. So I don't know what my dynamics and what my mental side would be when I could take 100 something grand for last place and live a nice, comfortable life that way. If your makeup is that, or if you've done a Richard Bland or a Lee Westwood and you've done your stuff on tour. Well, no, Blandy is really in the same league as Westie's, say, European tour side or worldwide. But Blandy's taken advantage of his opportunity, and all credit to him. Like, that's what's great about Liv, is that it's given this guy, end of his career, an opportunity to play great golf, and he's doing that. And Westie deserves everything he's got because of what he's put into the game. So those people that have decided to go to Liv, I don't necessarily have anything against. It's just not my cup of tea. That's it.
And a couple of years into this, because you think back to Wentworth a couple of years ago, it felt like there was so much heat around us and a lot of internal bitterness amongst a lot of players and some awkward conversations.
I don't actually.
Has that calmed down?
I'll stop you there. I don't think there was a lot of bitterness. Well, from what I saw myself, Billy Horschel, having big hugs with Westy, Taylor Gooch. Like there was a lot of there's a lot of you know niceness until maybe Poltz and Billy were caught on the putting green because Billy might have said something opposed to it. But I don't think there's ever something that would ever get out of hand necessarily. I think at the end of the day, golfers play great golf and we're not political very well. And so leave that stuff to other people. My thing with Liv is if you make that decision, just understand that those decisions have consequences. And that's just life. All decisions have consequences.
One place, unfortunately, you're not going to be over the next few weeks is up at Royal County Down. You're going to be playing 3 of the next 4. Explain the reasoning as to when you're picking tournaments, why you go for one over another.
Well, it's very difficult because I love playing in Ireland. Never played Royal County Down, which is on one of my top lists of golf courses to play. But I am playing here. The start of the Ryder Cup list start this week. I'm playing Crans Montana because I've notoriously had some decent results there. So then I'm looking through with my team and my stats guy Tom Boys about prepping for Wentworth as well. And Wentworth being the 4th event in a row, notoriously over the past times that I've done it hasn't helped me. And also just thinking about playing Royal County Down in Ireland, the weather could be pretty torrential, like could be
no chance. Windy. No chance.
Could be very windy, could be links golf, like links golf in the middle of the season when I'm playing, Parkland course this week, Crans Montana, which is an exception, but you're up in the mountains, and Wentworth, which are all very kind of similar. Just doesn't make sense for me to. I mean, I've got a different set of irons that I use on links turf, so putting them in play, the swing could go off from having massive high crosswinds for the whole week. Who knows? And I just want to be prepped for Wentworth, and it's a decision I've made. I think being fresh for Wentworth will be a good shout, and just putting those things into my head are the things why I chose not to play in Ireland this year.
Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of people in this country would throw their arms up in the air when the Irish Opens at the K Club or Mount Juliet, one of the great resort golf courses, and say, well, we are the home of, or one of the homes of links golf. That's where it needs to be all the time. Yeah. But actually, if it's maybe not in a links swing just before a Scottish Open, for a lot of players, it's just not the right time of year.
Well, that was frustrating because when I saw Royal County Down on the list, I was absolutely buzzing. I was buzzing because it's one of the courses I wanted to play. And I'm not really one for not choosing to play courses just because it doesn't fit the schedule necessarily. I'd play because I want to play there. But this just sounded right. And another point that came up was the points for the Ryder Cup were the same in Ireland as they were in Spain the week after Wentworth. The money's different, yeah, and the world ranking points would probably be different, but the Ryder Cup points are the same. So I'm looking at it as a point of, right, the Rory McIlroys, the Shane Lowrys might not be in Spain the week after, so I'll go to the one the week after in Spain and maybe have a better chance of getting some more Ryder Cup points. So it's just like that comes into play all the time.
You really are laser focused right now then on what it takes to put yourself in the best position.
It's the only thing I'm thinking about. And like I said, in the gym, it just gives me this new energy and different energy and the focus. And I'm done with, going, nah, I'm not going to think about it and talk about it. Nah, I want to make this team. I'm close to a point of saying I'm making this team. That's okay. Where I just want to be there. I want to be there so bad. And I want to be part of the team, and I want to show Luke, and I want to show the team. I want to show Rory. I want to show the big guys that I can take them down. I can play these guys, and I'm going to do everything I can to be there.
Brilliant. Are you at the stage where you're like blaring in angry Americans at Bethpage, roaring abuse at you to show how mentally you can handle that?
Maybe I'll get some speakers and then some
Yeah,
abuse
yeah.
flying at me. Hey, listen, I've dealt with it a lot in my career, so it's nothing new. So I'll be all
Uh,
right.
Before I let you go, a couple of things. You've mentioned the stats guy a few times. What does he do?
So he works. It's Tom Boys. He's a good friend of mine. He works for a company called Upgame, and he sends me all my scripts, and I obviously input all of my shots on the course, and he gets all the data. And I mean, there's a page this week for about 18 to 20 pages long. Well, it's more than 18 because it's every single hole as well. But there must be about 25 pages of the things that I need to do right this week to contend, and everything that's right for me to practice in preparation for the tournament. So there's no stone left unturned with Boise, and he's brilliant. He loves his data. It's just how you use it is what's
Mm.
important. So Tom is very good at like understanding where I play well as well. He looks at the finer details. So don't play 5 events in a row because the fourth and fifth one you're not very good. So take a week off in between there and play 2, 1 off 2. So little things like that can help you plan your schedule and your preparation and your practice. And then also I feed back to him how I'm feeling about my game. And he's also come up with this other system of what's called the diamond, which helps me select shots into greens. Don't get too aggressive and play to my variabilities of shot patterns, basically. So a left pin from a certain distance, I might have to aim slightly further right because I can't miss it left, and I've got a left miss pattern. All those sort of things where data is driven, but ultimately it comes down to me executing a golf shot.
Well, you do have a manager, but you don't have a manager like a football team that you're answerable to. Are you answerable to him though when you come off the course? He says, "You hit the shot that is not part of the one thing we're telling you not to do. You just went and did it."
Yeah, definitely.
Got to explain yourself.
And
That's
I
the
think
artistry, isn't it?
that comes more from the caddy, more from Jamie Lane, my caddy, where we'll speak about the shot and where we're coming down. If I don't execute, I don't execute. That's it. Like you can't, you got to go and practice more. Got to go get better. Yeah, a lot of golf nowadays is about your misses rather than your good shots. My good shots are good enough. I've shown that. Um, but my misses sometimes are a little bit too penal, or my uh, my consistency will let me down sometimes in tournaments. So I'm always constantly trying to strive and get better at that.
You mentioned the Alps tour, and we were talking last week on the podcast. Gary Murphy and Peter Lowry, or who
Yeah.
you'll know from back in the day, and tour on the podcast with us every week, and they were talking about the frustrations of how difficult it is for young Irish golfers and the lack of young Irish golfers. Tom McKibben, the only one who's really out on tour each week, and how players, a lot of them are stuck on the Alps tour, or they're going to Challenge Tour and not making it, chancing around at Q School, where again, what does that actually get you in terms of starts now? Like you on Alps Tour, were are you the greatest Alps Tour player ever? What you win 6 times in a
I
season or
think
something like that?
I mean, is it a great stat to have? Maybe.
I don't know. It's a stat like
Well, it's nice. It was nice. I mean, people have got to remember that I was on there for 4 years. So for the other 3 years, I wasn't the greatest Alps Tour player on there. I never managed to get my card. I was always around like 11th, 10th, 11th on the money list. So I was never really in reach. But then there was a change. And if you're asking me a question like, is this like, am I talking to the young Irish golfers out there potentially wanting to make it onto tour? Then it was that switch of mindset and coaching staff that I had around me that were brutal. They were brutally honest with me, telling me I wasn't good enough. You need to work harder. You need to be better at this. I was the hardest worker on the Alps Tour by an absolute mile. And luckily, I had people around me, friends on the Alps Tour, that would work with me. But they would work with me as competition. They'd work with me with, well, you have people to go out for dinner with on the Alps Tour. It's quite a lonely place. You can share hotels, which cuts the costs. All these sort of things which help you mentally. And then also the practice side to it, putting drills, chipping drills, practice rounds. But then I just took it extra and I did a little bit more work. I just got myself into a place where I felt really comfortable. And on the golf course, I was relentless. Like I was only ever thinking about being up there and in contention. And as soon as I got that first win, I finished third in the first event of the year, second in the second, and then I won, and won 6 times in a row, and then finished fourth in there as well. And it was like I had an unbelievable season with that mentality and hard work. And it's not sustainable sometimes, and it's a little bit easier to play that way on the Alps Tour than necessarily on the European Tour, because a lot of people ask me, like, why don't you just carry that on? But it's not as simple as that, and there's better players out on tour now.
But I guess, and the point the lads are making was, you proved that you were ready for that next level. You didn't skip anything.
I didn't skip. I think I'm one of very few out here actually who've come through the ranks of amateur golf, not being amazing, but playing for England, and then turning pro and not being that successful, but then turning that around and then playing Challenge Tour and getting off Challenge Tour, really the dual sanction event, and then I'm playing in Wentworth and win 3 times that year in 2018, and then PGA Tour, and there's like levels to it, and I'm the one of the guys that has done that. It comes down to determination and hard work and good golf. But I want to take that next step. I want this to be the catalyst. These conversations of like, yeah, look where Matt is now. So
yeah. One last one. You mentioned playing with Tiger a couple of times.
Played with him at the Open in Portrush, actually.
Okay.
And then been around him, obviously, quite a bit.
Live up to expectations.
He didn't then, because I think he was a little bit injured, so
he missed the cut.
The aura is off the charts, and then even just seeing him around and the aura and the pull that he has it's amazing. He plays on it, which he should do. But yeah, it's amazing, and he's helped our game. So all credit to him.
Yeah, Matt, you've been so good with your time. Thank you so much. Listen, the very best of luck. We're going to keep a close eye on those Ryder Cup rankings over the next year, and I hope you get off to a fast start this week at the Belfry, and maybe all going well next year. The Irish Open might be a possibility. I think it's back at the K Club next year, Parkland. Who knows? It might be even the final qualifying event.
Yeah, who knows? Perfect. I'll be there.
Brilliant, Matt Wallace. Absolute pleasure.
Thanks, mate.